Why aren't you eating dinner? My father-in-law asked. We were visiting him for New Year's after a long time. He probably noticed there was only enough food on the table for 3 people. It happens all the time, my mother-in-law said, chewing on the hamburger steak I made. What do you mean by that? My father-in-law looked at my mother-in-law and husband curiously. A daughter-in-law who can't give her mother-in-law grandchildren has to be a servant, right? My mother-in-law answered casually. That's right, Ruby is our servant. She stays in the kitchen to take care of us while we eat, she added. My husband sipped his beer and echoed her words. As expected, he always took me to his mother's house every weekend to help with chores, even though I couldn't give her grandchildren. He said, I'm letting you stay here, so you should appreciate my mom and do your best for her. I didn't want to go to my in-laws' house, but I felt I had to. Even if I said no, my husband would push me to go. He knew I got angry easily and struggled to express myself. Mom, I brought a servant. He recently greeted me like that. What do you mean? My father-in-law looked upset by the way my mother-in-law and husband talked about me. That's a normal family with kids. Ruby's infertility means I can't have grandchildren, he said. It's not your fault, Ruby. You shouldn't let them bully you. What do you mean? You live so far away, so stay out of it, my mother-in-law replied. That's right, Dad. Don't tell me what to do. You didn't have to watch Mom lose the chance to have grandchildren, my husband said. They sounded like they were teasing my father-in-law. I listened to them while grinding coffee beans. My mother-in-law and husband always asked me to bring them coffee right after they finished eating. I had been so busy shopping for my mother-in-law that I only had time to eat a piece of sweet bread earlier. Come on, I'm hungry too. I'm not sure what I'm doing, I thought. A single coffee bean fell to the floor as if trying to escape the grinder. My name is Ruby, and I'm a 37-year-old housewife. During lunch hours on weekdays, I work part-time in the kitchen of a family restaurant. My husband and I rent an apartment. I used to work at the same bank as my husband, but I left 3 years ago to focus on fertility treatment. We couldn't have children, so we sought medical help and found out the problem was on my side. After a year of treatment, I learned that it was impossible for me to get pregnant. My mother-in-law and husband changed after that. At first, we were both working and handling our own money, but when I quit my job, my husband took over our finances. He managed our savings, paid the rent and insurance, and started giving me money for living expenses. At first, we lived comfortably on $1,000 a month, but when we decided to stop fertility treatments, my husband said, "You can save money now." What do you mean? I asked. He explained that since we weren't trying to conceive anymore, I didn't need as much money. You can go back to work if you want, he said. He gradually reduced the money he gave me, first to $800 a month, then $600, and eventually $500. During that time, I desperately searched for a job, but my mother-in-law got in the way. She would say things like, "Working full-time isn't good for a wife. If you don't share the housework, I'll divorce you." So, I shouldn't work at all? I asked. If it's only part-time, that's fine. You need to take care of Carl and serve me, since you can't have grandchildren. It's the least you can do, she replied. It hurt to hear that having children was so important to her, especially after going through painful treatments myself. My mother-in-law started asking me for help more often. "My bathroom is dirty, come and clean it." "I'm going out to dinner with a friend," she'd say. She would frequently call and ask me to run errands. I worked every weekend at her house, and no matter what I did, she always complained. "Why are you folding laundry like that? Put the corners together and fold it properly. Do it again," she would say. Once, she even threw the folded laundry on the floor, almost like she enjoyed making me feel bad. After dinner, my father-in-law asked, "I'm going out for a drink. Do you want to join me?" He added, "If you don't want to, it's fine. I was just thinking about what happened during dinner." "You've been treated so badly by Elizabeth and Carl," my father-in-law said, and his words made me tear up. I couldn't help but cry. "If you want, you can vent to me," he offered. He took me to a local bar that was small, but clean and cozy. We sat at a table across from each other. He ordered a beer, and I ordered a whiskey soda. We also got some mixed nuts and a salad. "I could tell Elizabeth and Carl were being rude to you," my father-in-law started after taking a sip of his beer. I shared how poorly I'd been treated since I gave up on fertility treatments. "I'm blamed for not being able to have children, and I'm forced to run errands. My husband won't let me work full-time and has cut my living expenses. Now, he only gives me $500 a month. What I hate most is being called a slave." "I know, Elizabeth isn't happy unless she gets her way, he replied. She wasn't like this before, but she became selfish after having Carl. She yells at you so much that it's understandable to dislike her. Now you both pretend to be a happy couple. Do you think it's because he doesn't want to be with you? I'm jealous that you have a place to escape to, I admitted. You're not tough enough to make yourself heard, he said. Yeah, but talking to you makes me feel better, I replied. That's good, I'm happy to hear that. Before leaving the bar, we shared one more beer and whiskey soda. However, when I got back home, things took a turn. My husband and mother-in-law were standing there when I opened the door. Dad, did you have a night out with my wife? My husband asked, looking at both of us. I just invited Ruby for a drink, my father-in-law replied. What kind of relationship is this? You can't go out for drinks together, my mother-in-law shouted angrily. What do you think, Ruby? Isn't it wrong for a wife to go to a bar with a man? You can't give me grandchildren, but you still have desires. Both my husband and mother-in-law pointed at me. Enough, a powerful voice echoed through the room, startling everyone. My father-in-law was furious, staring at Carl and Elizabeth. What's wrong with you two? All I wanted was for Ruby to relax. My heart raced. It was clear that my normally mild-mannered father-in-law could become very difficult when he was angry. When he mentioned Elizabeth, she shuddered, probably scared of him or worried she had done something wrong. You said, what kind of relationship do you have with your father-in-law that you go out drinking together? Well, my daughter-in-law is treated like a slave, and I wanted to take her out to help her forget about it. Because of Ruby, I can't have grandchildren, my husband yelled. How can you say that when you hate children? I wanted to yell. My mother-in-law always blamed me for not giving her grandchildren, but aren't grandchildren different from other children? You don't really want grandchildren if you treat Ruby like this. You're just making excuses to blame her, my father-in-law said. My mother-in-law looked like she was about to argue, but then quickly looked away. Was she out of things to say or scared of her husband? Carl, wait. I heard you only give Ruby $500 a month for living expenses. Do you keep the rest of your salary? My father-in-law asked. No, I pay rent and insurance, Carl replied. Even so, I don't think that's all of your salary. My husband looked down and bit his lip, struggling to come up with an excuse. I came here to discuss our future. Let's get to it, my father-in-law said, leading us to the living room. What do you mean discuss our future? Carl and Elizabeth asked together. Just sit down, my father-in-law said. Make some coffee first, Ruby. Don't tell her what to do, my father-in-law yelled, making my mother-in-law shudder again. Make coffee for us and a cup for Ruby too. My mother-in-law nodded and sat quietly. My husband sat next to her, while I took a chair further from the table. I'll be retiring in a few years. After my current assignment ends, I won't be living with you anymore, my father-in-law said. What do you mean? Elizabeth and Carl asked together. Mr. Murphy looked at both of them. We've been pretending to be a couple for years, so we don't need to live together anymore. I'll live where I want, and you can stay here. That's fine, but after you accused me of being unfaithful earlier, I've changed my mind. I'm selling the house, he said. Elizabeth, I'll leave you, he added. What will I do? Where will I live? My mother-in-law was surprised and stood up. Just get a place of your own, my father-in-law said. How am I supposed to do that? I can't pay rent, she replied. Get Carl to help you, my father-in-law suggested. Carl stood up nervously, waving his hands. We don't have any money. If I do that, I won't be able to pay Mom's debt. Elizabeth gasped. My husband swallowed hard, but I heard him mention that Elizabeth was in debt. You just said debt, didn't you? My father-in-law said, sounding horrified. What do you mean by debt? Explain. I didn't mean it like that, Carl stammered. Explain, my father-in-law demanded. My mother-in-law started to cry when she heard his angry voice, but his rage didn't go away. Mom owes me $50,000. I'm her co-signer, Carl admitted, looking resigned. Around the time we stopped fertility treatments, my mother-in-law made an investment. At first, she made some money, but then the stock market crashed. You mean you lost money in the stock market and went into debt? I asked, surprised. I used family funds. We invested in stocks that were supposed to go up, but eventually, we got into debt. I'm paying it off with my salary, and Mama is repaying it by working part-time at a supermarket. This was news to me. I had never heard anything about stocks or debt before. My mother-in-law had lost a lot of money and borrowed more to make up for it when I stopped fertility treatments. She must have tried to pay back the debt by investing in stocks that didn't rise in value. I couldn't help but say what was on my mind. That's also when you and Carl began treating me like a slave. Ruby, what are you trying to say? Are you blaming me? My mother-in-law asked. The mistreatment started around the time I stopped fertility treatments, and I didn't think it was because she wanted a grandchild. It felt like she was taking out her frustrations on me because it was easier to do so. My mother-in-law stayed silent, as I expected. Carl had been using the money he took from my monthly allowance to pay off his debts. He didn't cut my expenses for some unknown reason. He just needed the money to help his mother. You stupid idiot, my father-in-law suddenly exploded. Even if it's family money, it's money I worked for. You put it into stocks without consulting me, and then you lost it? What kind of money management is this? After he yelled, my father-in-law left the room suddenly, as if he remembered something. We all followed him. What are you doing? He shouted. Show me Elizabeth's stuff. I want to see what she's buying. Stop, she cried out, but her husband ignored her and opened the closet door. The first thing I noticed was a luxury handbag. A quick glance showed at least 10 of them. Ruby, are these bags expensive? My father-in-law asked. They're all luxury items, costing over $1,000 each, I replied. He then opened a small drawer in the corner of the closet filled with accessories, rings, necklaces, and earrings, some with diamonds and rubies. I picked up a ring and saw it was made of 18-karat gold. Elizabeth, you bought all these expensive things without telling me, my father-in-law said, glaring at her. I'm sorry, she mumbled. Divorce, he yelled, turning to my husband in disgust. All this spending, investing in stocks without my permission, and treating Ruby like a slave. I want a divorce. I won't take no for an answer. How am I supposed to live? My mother-in-law asked, panicking. Talk to Carl. I'll sell this house and land immediately. You can sell these bags and jewelry to pay for the move, he shot back. My mother-in-law had no reply. My husband was sitting quietly, nodding and biting his lip. He no longer had the arrogant demeanor he used to have when he treated me like a slave. The next day, my father-in-law brought 2 sets of divorce papers. Here, Ruby, if you want to file for divorce too, you can. My father-in-law handed me one of the divorce papers. I looked at my husband, but he sighed and turned away. I definitely wanted a divorce, but I also wanted alimony from them. I thought a lot about my situation the night before. I had suffered for so long, and I realized I really wanted a child. The fertility treatments had been painful, but I endured them. In the end, I discovered I couldn't conceive. Holding back tears, I shared my story. All the painful tests and treatments I went through to become a mother were for nothing. I can't have a baby, no matter how hard I tried. As I was grieving, Carl told me he would reduce my living expenses since I didn't need fertility treatments anymore. What are you saying? This is all Carl's fault, I cried. My father-in-law looked horrified and told my mother-in-law to stop talking. She had blamed me for not giving her grandchildren and treated me like a slave. Do you know how hard it was for me? I asked. Of course, Elizabeth and Carl didn't have anything to say in response. In the end, Carl just needed money to pay off his debts, while Elizabeth took out her frustration on me after losing so much money in the stock market. I want you to reimburse me for this, I said. What if I say I won't pay? Carl replied. Then I'll talk to my lawyer, I said. My husband put his hand to his forehead and fell silent. After the new year, my father-in-law officially divorced my mother-in-law. When he put their house on the market, he found a buyer within a few days. The buyer wanted the land to build a new house, so they planned to tear down the old one first. With no place to stay, my mother-in-law moved into a rundown apartment that looked like it might collapse. Now, she lived with my ex-husband. Along with their living costs, they had to pay off their debts and alimony to me, which I knew must be very difficult for them. My mother-in-law worked at a supermarket during the day and had a part-time job at a pub at night. My husband also took on a second job on weekends at a wedding hall in addition to his regular job. They complained to everyone about how hard it was to pay their debts and alimony while seeing others around them happy. Meanwhile, I moved into a lovely little apartment and got a job thanks to my father-in-law. It was a clerical position at a security company where I could use my accounting knowledge and skills from my time at the bank. I want you to be happy. If you ever need help, just let me know, my father-in-law told me. He was on my side, and I was determined to do my best in this new chapter of my life. On the morning of my first day at work, I put on a new suit and made a promise to myself.